Why is Bad Bunny performing at the NFL Superbowl 2025-26 season? A lot of people have asked that question. This would be the second time that members representing the Puerto Rican community have had an opportunity to be placed on a world stage under Sean Carter, aka Jay-Z's watch. When the NFL announced that Sean Carter, Jay-Z, was going to be overseeing and assisting them in the space of diversity for such lineups for NFL entertainment, many people thought that his lineup would be much more diverse, respectfully, if it was. What we've noticed is in the last 5 years, there have been three members of the Puerto Rican community who have had an opportunity to present themselves as representatives of the Hispanic or Latinos. So I wanted to take this opportunity during this show to address some issues that are critically important to DEI, immigration, and the direction of America. Let us be clear. In 1970, there were 1 million quote unquote Hispanics in the United States. Under the presidential administration of Nixon, they began to classify the Spanish-speaking community as quote unquote Hispanic. That was supposed to include every person that spoke Spanish. So what they did is they said these are non-Black Hispanics or non-white Hispanics. And they were given an opportunity to identify based on these groups. So what you have is people who would say, I'm not Black, I'm not white, I'm Puerto Rican. I'm not Black, I'm not white, I'm Dominican. Really, you're ignorant. Because even in those countries, those groups have to identify or classify as European, meaning Spanish or Portuguese, or African descent, or indigenous people, the natives who were there. Their natives would be the equivalent, respectively, of what we call Native American Indians. So in those respective countries, that is what you had. Unique to this is Puerto Rico is not a Latin country. How ignorant are we to assert that these are Latinas? They're not. Puerto Rico is located in the West Indies. It is a Caribbean island. And this fight or demand for everyone to associate themselves under the brand of being Puerto Rican is absurd at best. 1 million Hispanics in the United States in 1970, 9.8 million Blacks, those who identified under Black, be it Black Jamaicans, those are Black Bohemians, Africans. You simply said you was Black. The same is true for white. If you said you were white, it meant you represented the following groups: Italians, Irish, Germans, French, Danish, Dutch, etc. So when you look at the 2020 census, the Hispanic community grew from 1 million from 1970 to 42 million. The African American, the Blacks, from 9.8 million to well under 38 million. Not to include the 30 million aborted Black babies from 1973 to 2023. 30 million aborted babies. Look at the numbers. New York Vital Records. Look at the numbers available through the Pew Research, through the Catholic Church, CNNW, and a host of other research that's available, and the number of abortions that have been performed. Some records say 22 million, others 25, some are at 30 million. The bottom line is, as all the other groups have grown, the Black community has decreased. So then when we look to the NFL as an opportunity to showcase diversity in the United States, why Bad Bunny? Bad Bunny's Puerto Rican. Why would we take a Puerto Rican entertainer to a state like California, the 13th district, I think they're the 9th district, maybe the 3rd? Follow me. At any given rate, New York is the 2nd district. Texas is the 5th. Atlanta represents the 11th, which includes Florida. The 5th Circuit, Texas, includes the state of Texas. The 2nd Circuit includes New York. Those areas have Puerto Ricans in New York. Outside of Puerto Rico, the island, New York has the largest population, but they are confined 90% to the Bronx. Outside of the Bronx, you might have less than 10,000 in Orlando, Florida, and the surrounding areas. The Puerto Rican community is a very, very, very small community that consists of Spanish and Portuguese descent, people who are from Europe. Through the ignorance of so many, you keep thinking we're diversifying with black and brown. They're not all black and brown. From 1619, the first ship to sail for slavery in the United States came from Lisbon, Portugal. The next ships all sailed from Spain, the Spanish. They controlled slavery in the United States for more than 100 years, well before Great Britain got involved. So this thought that the NFL is diversifying, if you will, or allowing for diversity of the people or the celebration of different cultures by constantly reverting to and requiring people of Puerto Rican descent to come in is absurd. Puerto Rican is not a race. It's a nationality. Some people are American. Some people are Canadian. They're Puerto Rican. Okay? But what is the race of these Puerto Ricans? How do they identify? Many of them will say this: my name is Maria. I don't do a nika. My name is Janita. I don't date the nika. Okay? Know our history, Black people in America, with regard to and pertaining to the role of this quote-unquote Latina. These people to whom you claim to be Latina are not Latina at all. They're not part of Latin America. Latin America has their own set of countries, like Central America, like Honduras, Ecuador, Belize, Costa Rica, okay? South America, Brazil, okay? I think it's critically important that when we keep talking about us putting things together to bring forth this space of diversity, we simply go to the Puerto Rican community and we give them the stage. Well, in terms of the federal districts, California is your third, okay? So that's your third district. There's a 13th district there too that wishes to be celebrated. They're the Mexican community. They're the largest population in the state of California. So if the goal is for the Super Bowl to be there, and the goal of the Super Bowl is for people to perform there, then why wouldn't you bring someone from the Mexican community there? Why bring a Puerto Rican? Of the 42 million so-called quote-unquote Hispanics in the country, 85% are of Mexican descent. How do you disregard that group in its entirety and revert to relying on someone from Puerto Rico to say, this is what we're going to do? Puerto Ricans represent less than 0.1% of the Hispanic community in the United States. So why are you relying on them? You had Jennifer Lopez to perform. Okay. You had Shakira to perform. Okay. So you come back and your performance is now through other Puerto Ricans? You're not going to give any space for those who represent the Mexican community? They are the largest population of the Latinos, Hispanics in the United States. And I don't use the term Latino because those who are from Mexico, they're Central America. They're not Latinas. They're not Latin America. They're Central America. So it's almost of great concern to many of us that the NFL is not even utilizing or embracing all demographics that fall within the ambit of quote unquote Hispanic. And that draws a question. Why? If you're saying you want to celebrate diversity, then why leave out Mexican performers? That would be the group more likely, if you will, to appeal, especially if you're looking at it through the terms of commercialization. If it's about commercialization, you're trying to reach the Spanish-speaking community, reach the 42 million, of which 85% are Mexican. Have your sponsors and advertisers cater to that group. They're the ones that bring in the resources, not Puerto Ricans. Under Dedusa, Puerto Ricans are like considered the lowest on that scale. So if you're looking at it through that lens, why embrace them as a culture? Their island is one of the poorest islands in terms of that. Mexico, yeah, they flood the United States, but they have a multi-billion-dollar per year tourism. And they have one of the largest amount of billionaires for those groups. Okay? The Carlos Slim types. Who do you have in Puerto Rico that meets those definitions? The island of Puerto Rico is in a disarray, but that's to no fault of the United States. You don't use a Super Bowl to send that type of message. That's not going to help. They did all these concerts. So you ask Jennifer Lopez, you ask Fat Joe, ask all of them with Red Cross, what happened to the millions and millions of dollars that were being raised to ensure that Puerto Rico had what it needed? But I tell you, the Red Cross will say, even though we do these concerts, even though we partake directly, indirectly, the money can go anywhere. Really? That's in the fine print. So when there's a crisis, the money may not go. So the victims of Hurricane Maria may not have gotten. I know there's certain parts of Puerto Rico that are still without electricity, without water, or the water is contaminated, The hospitals there where the people suffered, they didn't have the generators. Why? Because they were giving it to the Spaniards there. The white Puerto Ricans were the ones that were benefiting, right? Indigenous were not benefiting. The few that are there now for African descent, they're not benefiting. And so wherein you have this new influx of Puerto Ricans claiming that Afro-Cubanas, that's a lie. What is that? It's a group of people now that are running from Trump, And so they're giving themselves any type of titles. Now, all of a sudden, you want to fall under being African descent? No, that's not the way you were operating before. You people were saying you're not black, you're not white. I'm Boricua. I'm not black, I'm not white. I'm Puerto Rican. Okay. So now all of a sudden you're Afro-Cubanas? Really? No, you're not. You're not Afro-Cubanas. There's no such thing. You guys are just coming up with stuff. It's no different than what you're doing with this icy and icy spice, Marisol. We just say bring in ice. We're not going to sit here and let people just play on the shoulders of black culture and the African descent and African origins. So I'm disappointed that Sean Carter, would say, well, it's good to have Bad Bunny. No, it's not. Bad Bunny is his presence interferes with the money that comes through California. Pause on that. If it's about celebrating culture, why haven't you taken care of the Mexicans? Those who are in the United States legally, whose families have business and industry legally, who are an intricate part of the California economy. Because let's face it, 80% of the players on the NFL are African American, if not more. They have more representation there than baseball. Baseball's at 6% for African Americans. The next group is Dominican. Okay? And so even wherein you're looking at it through that lens, well, let's bring in all the different groups. No, we're not going to bring in all the different groups. When I ask the serious question, if it's about diversity, you already gave them Jennifer Lopez and Shakira. Why not give them? Why not provide for us as Americans as a whole the celebration of Mexican culture? Bad Bunny is not going to be able to do that. That's not what he's trying to do. That's not what he's supposed to do. But why does he have a voice? His voice doesn't represent the interests of Mexicans. 90% of Mexicans, they have nothing to do with Puerto Ricans. So what we're demonstrating through the sports world is how ignorant we may be with regard to and respecting the diversity within the Hispanic community. That you just make the assumption that, let's grab anyone who speaks Spanish. Really? So you don't want to do anything for the Mexican community? That's their California. This is their Texas. Their Carolinas. They run in terms of where they're at. It's not about an AOC. AOC will never be vice president, let alone president. Maybe I might choose up a Secretary of State somewhere down the line, but, it's bigger than New York. It's much, much bigger than New York. You have a strong Mexican population in the 6th Circuit, Michigan, right? So the question has to be asked, under what circumstances, if at all, do you believe that the 3rd Circuit, the 9th Circuit should be ignored with regard to providing the Mexican community with what is needed? Beyonce did a performance last year during holiday for the Texas versus Texas. Okay, that's the 5th Circuit. Mexicans are the largest Hispanic population in Texas. So at what point in time do we look back and truly celebrate the Mexican culture that is here in America? Those that are here legally. The 42 million Like I said, more than 85%, they're Mexican descent. How do you celebrate that group? When you look at the NFL, again, we don't have Mexican players on that wise. 80+% African American athletes. Then look to the owners who own the NFL teams. 98% white, not Hispanic. You look to the advertisers. No disrespect, Goya and them are not major advertisers of the NFL. But more compelling, look to the audience who's buying merch, gate sales, your tickets, respectfully, and viewership. The quote-unquote Hispanic community, they don't sit and watch the Super Bowl like that. And I get it. I know Roger is doing a great job, Commissioner, of trying to embrace. He has an excellent program for the women. We embrace that, the clubhouses. Okay, Fanakin, a unique brand of women's sports fans. That's who we are. But we recognize what he's trying to do in terms of diversity in that space. But let's look at numbers, real numbers. No one in the Hispanic Latino community, they don't watch sports like we do, outside of baseball. They don't follow basketball to that extent. They don't follow football. Now, soccer, yes, soccer football for them. Okay? What we refer to as soccer is football for them throughout South America and throughout Latin America and even in Africa and throughout the Caribbean, right? So when we hear that, the Ronaldos of the world, they love that. That's soccer. But they call that football. But it's not U.S. football. It's not what we do. And for our athletes, for our management, for our corporate sector, for the owners, if you will, that's not where they are. And a great percentage. And so is the ultimate goal to see if we can get viewership? Or are we once again trying to bring them to the table the same way you did with bringing Jennifer Lopez and them? And they performed with cages to send a message about ICE. So what? You're going to politicize the Super Bowl the same way you did with Usher? You take a black male like Usher, who spread herpes throughout the black community, that he caught from this white woman, the same girl that he's with now. And then you go after you running around with the Tamikas and the Chilis and the Marisols and all these other African women and Afro-Cubanas, right? Then you go and you spread this disease. And then you marry a white woman, a gay white woman at that. And you say, oh no, she's not white, she's Puerto Rican. Really? How ignorant. She's the descendant of the ancestors of slavery, no different than what we say about white Europeans, white Americans, the Great Britons, the English, right? And then he marries her. So you celebrate this black man that poisoned the whales of the black community with herpes and mass numbers, right? And even was sued by his own insurance company for doing that. Then you allow him to further his campaign by suggesting that, black women start going back to the men that they once were with. Like he want to grab a Tamika type and mix Tamika with this white woman he has who's gay. Okay? And mix the two of them? What was that message about? Tamika raised these boys. So you use the Super Bowl to, heighten that platform with the Alicia Keys types? These gay women, bisexual women. Oh, I'm going to go get Mo. And Mo is the woman to whom was married to her husband, Swiss. Now all of a sudden we're going to promote, those black women come back over here with us, with our husbands now. Like, what are we doing? And you're using the Super Bowl as a platform for that? To promote that agenda? So a black women could be walking around here like Neo and, he's got 3 and 4 wives or 3 and 4 girlfriends. I mean, what are y'all trying to do, NFL? Turn black women out? Send these type of messages? So if it's not one where you're politicizing it through immigration, then you're trying to do it through what? Lesbianism? Trying to teach black women how to be beards for men like Usher? Like, what are you guys doing? So what message, if at all, are you attempting to send by having Bad Bunny? Bad Bunny's messing with people money. He's not California love. We thought NFL would know better and show the love. If you're going to show the love, then do that. I mean, with all due respect, there's even a difference between the sets, right? I mean, are we simply just saying that when we think of Latinas in this country and Hispanics, you just think of Puerto Ricans? I mean, have we gotten that ignorant? Florida has the Cubans. New York was Cuban and African American. Well before the Puerto Ricans started coming into New York. Look at the story, West Side Story. There's a reason why West Side Story was so popular. It told the stories of the different groups. And Puerto Ricans and Cubans. Spanish Harlem was not Puerto Ricans. Spanish Harlem was Cubans. Afro-Cubanas. No, Afro-Cubanos. There's a big difference. That's who was there. The same is true of the Bronx. The Bronx had an influx of Cubans. But it was only after the 1960s when Kennedy got in office, then you started seeing this decrease in Cubans and this increase in Puerto Ricans. Okay? But we always understood Chicanos. So what exactly is the NFL trying to do now? What message are you trying to send now? You take the likes of an Usher, you make him popular. And that lifestyle popular. Then he uses a platform like BET to suggest, well, I want Tamika and my white wife, Jennifer. Let them be friends. Why? Tamika raised her 2 black boys. She don't have to come and help him raise these biracial children he has with her. That's not her responsibility. All this vacation together, really? Is that what you're trying to do? Send this message that, the white girls are the wives now and bring back the black girls to be like nanny type or butch type or engage in lesbianism? Like, what are you trying to do? Now you want to act like it's one big happy family? Use the black women as the wife for the public image, but you're going home to a white woman or a biracial type like a Alicia Keys type who passed through the womb of a white woman. Like, what are you guys out here trying to do? You're not going to butch out the black community. You're not going to force us to become beards either. Look at every time you take the platform, NFL, it's now with the intent to send some type of message. What message are you sending now with Bad Bunny? Respectfully, I think Bad Bunny is bad for business right now. And if it's about diversity, and if it's about the celebration of America and all of America, then why wouldn't you want to embrace the Mexican community? They have men and women who perform. They have entertainers. Selena Gomez is not Puerto Rican. At least she wasn't when we knew of her. Right? You have Rihanna perform. Right? We don't need a Cardi B. I like it like that. She's Dominican when she wants to be. And she's been real disrespectful to black women lately. Especially the likes of a JT. How comfortable is she think she getting? Y'all giving all these Latinas, so-called Latinas, and these Puerto Ricans a platform. And Dominicans also. And every time you do that, they come back and think that they're going to be disrespectful with it. It ain't going to go well for nobody. They're not going to have the support of the Mexican community. And to silence this white noise. It's going way too far. This Chocomai is going way too far. Used to be the little butterfly, the caterpillar. What you trying to do now? Remember, we all still, y'all Hollywood. We still Hollywood out here. And these little battles that's going on is not healthy for what we're trying to do. It's not healthy at all. So every time you think you give them a leg up, Puerto Ricans and Dominicans, then they always get flipped with it. And what is that going to do in the long haul? Right? So I would hope that the NFL rethink this position, especially you, Sean Carter. My S&C schools are hard knocks and whatnots. They still out here doing no knocks. Right? We're going to respect everybody. My S&C school of hard knocks and whatnots. Sean Combs, Sean Carter type. You know the love is real. Let us always remember how we're supposed to love, right? That California love is bigger than the Second Circuit. It definitely is. Thank you for joining me today. Lisa Hampton. Love is selflessly authentic. Having all money, power, talent, opportunities now. Coming to you from the boogie down.